In relationships, sometimes we get stuck because we're waiting on the other person to make an effort or make a move. We're waiting on them to pour into a need or a lack that's in our life. And what would happen in our relationships if we would get out of a holding pattern and realize that success does not come in waiting as much as it comes in the effort and in the ability to put yourself out there. Matter of fact, I'm going to say this. If you're waiting on financial freedom, it's not coming until you're willing to work for it. If you're waiting on some business to start for you, that's not going to happen unless you actually dive in. You can wait and hope for it, but the Bible would call that laziness. And it says the lazy, they want much, but they have very little. Matter of fact, we said this verse a few weeks ago, that the lazy are the ones that wake up and say, well, there's a lion in the field, or there's an obstacle in the way, so I can't do it today. And I'm going to say this, in our relationships, it seems to be that's the place that we feel like waiting or putting in minimal effort is going to bring great reward. And it doesn't work that way. At some point, you got to realize that if you're wanting something in your relationship that is not there, then you have to go make it happen. It's not going to naturally happen. How many of you understand the concept? We say it this way all the time. We do not naturally get better. We intentionally do. The only way you're going to find happiness, joy, the only way you're going to find contentment in your life is to be intentional. Today is one of those intentional days with your faith. You made an effort on a holiday weekend to go to church and to be here or to tune in online and to kind of worship and soak in with God. But if all your intentionality was poured into getting here, you're still not going to get anything. At some point, you got to realize that, yeah, you used intentionality to get somewhere, but then it's intentionality that's going to keep you going and progressing. And so while you're here, there's got to be some things that you're doing intentionally too. I tell our praise team when we have extra time on a Sunday morning, you got 10 minutes to go be intentional. In other words, to be off the stage and in the crowd. You got 10 minutes to go talk and fellowship and be connected. And so right here in the middle of this passage of Scripture in Romans 12, in our series on Walking the Walk, we find this verse that shifts the focus to family. And if you would, read with me chapter 12, verse number 13, and here's what it says. When God's people are in need, when believers are in need, we're talking family here. What's it say to do? Be ready to help. In other words, it's not to be ready to pray for, all right? Because a lot of times we're like, okay, God, they need something, you do it. And God's like, they need something, and that's why I have you there, so that I can do it through you, all right? And so he's saying, be ready to help, do what it takes. I have learned this, a family can totally hate each other. I mean, just be into it, arguing, and if somebody from the outside attacks one of them, they will rally together and they lay aside for the moment their differences and they pounce and they come together in this "you will not touch my own" mentality. Now, I've learned that in church, though, it's somehow opposite. We talk about family all the time, but when someone starts struggling or someone's in need, that's when we start disappearing. We start saying, okay, well, what they're saying makes me uncomfortable. You know, I don't know how to answer their problems. You know, God never asked you to answer them. He just asked you to be the conduit for the answer. We say it this way too, you're the answer to somebody's prayers. God has put you where you're going to be today because somebody's been praying for something. He put somebody on your mind today because God knows that you need to pick up the phone and text them because they're battling something that you're going to help them through. Please write this down. We need believers to fellowship, to get together and get connected. As a matter of fact, it goes on and it says, always be eager to practice hospitality. Hospitality means to be welcoming, to greet, or to enjoy having people over. Matter of fact, one of the qualifications for being an elder or a pastor in the church, according to the Bible, is that you got to be willing to open up your house. Like, you got to like people sitting on your couch, even if they break it. Dusty and Robert, wherever you are. You know, you got to be okay and desire it. When someone makes that statement, well, I can't stand being around people, I know immediately they've been trapped by the enemy's lies. All right? So In our society, have you noticed we preach community? That's our idea, but we try to use independence as our concept. So you're taught you need each other, you need each other, you need each other, but then also you're taught self-sufficiency is the way to happiness. It would be all that you can be. You can be anything you want to be. You can have it your way. And everything in our society is geared towards you, thinking about you only. And then when something goes wrong, we get on the news or we get on the radios and we start saying we need community. Well, independence is a good thing when it comes from the world or the attack, but it is a terrible thing when it comes to your faith. Matter of fact, we could say it, if this is even a word, that God promotes interdependence. In other words, we've got to get to where I need you and you need me. Matter of fact, let's do it. Look at the person beside you, even if you don't know them, and say these words. Ready? All right, you're going to look right, say it, and then you're going to look left and say it again. You ready? You need me. Go. All right, now say this. And I need you. All right, pass it around, give it to somebody else. All right, now, be careful if you were single, sitting by somebody single that's very close to a proposal, but, we can do some weddings later. The realities that I find in my life is sometimes I get frustrated, and I feel like I've got to get it done. You ever got there? I can't count on anybody else. Like, I'm going to have to make this happen. How many of you have ever been there? Okay. Sometimes I get lonely. I mean, there's times in my life that I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, it's all on me. And then there's other times that it's like, I wish I had somebody with me. How many of you are kind of bipolar that way, too, with your emotions? It's like, leave me alone, but I need you. Like, stop texting me all the time, but you didn't text me on my birthday. Am I right? I mean, let's be real. We got this constant war that's going on in our lives that's keeping us from connection. Matter of fact, can we put another one? Sometimes I get busy. Anybody else in here battle busyness? Write it down. If you're too busy for your relationships, you're too busy. You were not created to be placed on this earth to always be at work. Now, I know my wife is tuning in, all right, probably watching and thinking I'm a huge hypocrite with that one. Because she made this statement, because we were talking about that major change in life of maybe bringing her home, and she said, I am not coming home for you just to work more hours. Like we don't get to see each other because we're working all the time, but then if you're bringing me home and you're just going to put in more hours, then what's the point? And I'm like, but I'm trying to get this done now so that I can have time later. Have you ever learned that the time later never shows up because there's always something to do? Hey, can I say this? The best thing you can do with your life is be in happy, connected, deep, intimate relationships with other people. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? Some people, we work trying to make a way for our kids, only to find that our kids would rather have us than the things that we are providing for them. And then they figure out that the things is all they're going to get, so they make the things all they are. And then they get to a point to where they don't want anything to do with you. They don't want anything to do with us. I mean, I don't want us as a church to get materialistic to where we need this or we need that building or we need that pavement or we need these things, and we start sinking everything into the progress and we lose the connection as individuals. I'm going to tell you now, I'll take you in a dirt road filled with nothing but pollen and nastiness, covered in sweat, than a building any day. I would rather just have that connection time with you than to be so worried about how we're going to pay the bills. And so in there, what we got to find is how do we simplify our lives so that we can be more connected with others? How do we not get so caught up in our wants that we're not able to have our needs satisfied? And our need, the greatest need we have in our life, is relationship. You say, well, I don't agree with that. Well, isn't the greatest need you have in your life Jesus? I mean, without him, you have no hope for eternity. Without him, you have no hope for recovery. Without him, you have no hope. And so we need Jesus. So let me give you three things that God uses community for. Number one, to always defeat loneliness. I mean, when you're in community and you're in family and you're connected, you are not going to be lonely. Now, just because you're here does not mean you're connected today. You could have been the one that snuck in, sat down, and you're going to be the first out, last in, don't want to talk to anybody. That doesn't make you connected. Connection comes through fellowship. Connection comes through conversation. You say, well, I am introverted. I know that putting yourself out there is a very hard concept to do. So here's the best way to put yourself out there without having to go have awkward conversations. Be a greeter. Be somebody in the parking lot that just says hi when people show up. Just say, hey, it's good to see you today. You don't have to be the one that's looking around scouting for the person that looks like they're alone. No, you just be out there and available to everybody, and you'll naturally start connecting to other people. You know how I know that to be true? Is many of you will come to me when the persons that are normally out in the parking lot greeting are absent and say, where is Bill? I haven't seen Bill today. Is Bill okay? Well, you know why you missed Bill? Because Bill is a staple to your Sunday. He's somebody you pass all the time, somebody that you can depend on. You may not get to see him every day, but he's somewhere cracking a joke, making somebody laugh, doing something, and when that isn't present, there's an absence in your life. Even that little 30-second conversation seems so valuable. How many of you understand what I'm saying here? And here's what God says, be ready. Now, I've learned this. To be ready, you got to be present. Am I right? To be ready, you got to be willing. To be ready, you've got to be available to do whatever it takes. So when God says bring together as a family, it's supposed to take away your loneliness. Hey, dads, let's stop letting our children feel lonely in our own homes. Our wives feel lonely in our own bedrooms. Moms and wives, stop making your man feel like he's on an island, and stop making your children feel like they're a nuisance, and start downsizing your life so that you could pour more into the fellowship area of your life so that you can enjoy and live life to the fullest that God intended and the way that God wanted you to live. And that's the problem we're having. I hope today is a day of great fun for you. If this is your day of rest, there should be some fellowship involved. There should be some networking involved. You know, I have learned that my favorite part of football on Sundays, and not watching it, the ones that we play out here at 2:30, I rarely run. I rarely do those things in it. I'm too old. Every now and then I'll try to do a spin move and I'll regret it right after it's over. But I enjoy the different ages that we get to connect with. All the way from the old man section of me, Joe, and Scott. And Dusty's kind of trying to grow into that area, you know, but he's still young, all right? But then all the way down to our little Brendans and our little Levis that are yay tall, and you know, they're willing to tackle you if that's what it takes, and they're diving on every ball, and they've got game faces and all this. I'm loving the connections all the way down from the 7-year-olds to the year-olds, you know, like the people that are just kind of checking out nursing homes after the game, all right? So in there, but that doesn't happen without showing up. Hey, can I tell you this? It's hard to be in community in group setting. I mean, you can be here, some of you are first-time visitors, and I would love to pick your brains on this. You can be in a crowd like today, 600, 700, 800 people may come through the doors in this and still feel like you were unnoticed and that nobody cared. It's hard to connect in a corporate setting. Would you agree? I mean, if you go to a concert, you're not going to make best friends with the person in the last row. If you came to church today and you always sit on the floor, there's a good chance you know no one in the balcony. You don't know that you know, Ryan and Lisa have a little rivalry when it comes to football, and you don't know that they like to ride motorcycles and hers is cooler than his, and you know, you don't know the things about Zach as a golfer and different. You don't learn that because when do you have time? Every now and then we give you that little brief turn around and shake hands with somebody. And it's not like, okay, hey, my name is Josh Stu, give me your life story. I mean, tell me everything right here, right now. Now, there's some people that will try. They'll do their best, but you ain't going to remember. How many of you met someone today or see someone right now that you know goes here, but you have no idea what their name is? Would you slip your hand up? All right, me too. My name's Josh, by the way, all right? But the reality is, hey, if you're looking for this to be your community setting, it's not gonna work. You know what you gotta be willing to do? Sometimes get here early, stay late, go get ice cream. Even better, get in a small group. Get a group of people together. Our 18 to 35-year-olds will be hanging out Friday right here. Be here. And you say, well, I just need some new friends. I'm not asking you to join a church. I'm just asking you to get in a group of believers that you can grow with, that you can have fun with, and you will find that that will help you with your loneliness. Your social media does not help you with loneliness. It makes you more lonely. If you're depending on that and the likes of it, I may be old-fashioned. I'm getting to that age where, I used to be so technology advanced, right? Back when we put those little hard disk floppy drives into the computers, I was the man. But now there's things like Instagram and all these other social media things that I have no clue how to navigate. And I'm like, this is what old feels like. This is it. When somebody's talking about a technology or they're using a word that you used to use and now it doesn't mean the same thing, and you're like, what are they saying? Rad used to be good, but now they don't even say it. And if you say it, they look at you like you're a dinosaur. And it's like everything has changed. And so I have found that this means more to me. Somebody walking up, putting their arm around me means more than a heart on the bottom of my picture. Would you agree? Somebody patting you on the back and saying, I really appreciate what you're doing, is a lot better than a thumbs up. Am I right? We have made our lives emojis, and then we wonder why we are so insecure. There's something about personal contact. If you are new to this church and you do not get hugged today, let me know. If you're new to this church and you don't like hugs, you may want to leave early. Because if I get to you when you're leaving, I'm going to hug you, even if I'm sweaty. I'm just going to let you know. It's going to happen. I'm a hugger. I asked sometimes I forget to ask. I like to hug. Any other huggers representing in the house today? You know why I like that? Because I like you. It's good to know that you're liked in return. It doesn't feel good when you're standing with a group and somebody comes up and hugs everybody else in the group but you. Anybody ever had that happen? You know what I do when people do that? I call them out. Like, hey, where's mine? I have an expectation. I am needy. I am greedy when it comes to love. Give me mine. Well, I don't know you. I don't care. Give me mine. You say, well, that's so weird. That's our problem. Our problem is we've become weird with actual conversation. We've become weird with eye-to-eye contact. It's hard to look somebody in the eyes when you're talking. I had somebody in counseling a couple years ago. I was just sitting there listening to him, and I was looking at him, and the husband just kept looking around and doing all those things, and he's like, man, you're hard to talk to. And I was like, you're the first person that's ever said that to me. Like, why would you say that? They're like, because you're so intense. I'm like, intense? They're like, you haven't taken your eyes off of me. I'm like, why is that weird? I was taught that if you want to be personal, look at the person you're talking to. You say, well, I don't need that. I guarantee you when your husband's looking at the TV when you're talking, you do. Am I right, ladies? Guys, you know it's true about her, all right? So you know what you need to do? Take your eyes off the TV. Lay down the cell phone. Hey, your eyes and your ears are the gates to the conversation. If 60% of what is said is body language and mimicking and tones, you will miss the point of the conversation staring at somebody else while you're talking to someone. That's why texting's not good and all these other things. And we say, well, I have texted you. I've tried to reach out. I've tried to tell you what I'm going through. I'm going to tell you now, like, when I read a text, I read it in a blitz. If you send me a paragraph, I don't read the whole thing. Most of the time, I only read it when I'm at a red light. I skim it. And that's why sometimes you get replies that don't make sense. And you're like, well, that's not what I was saying. Then I go back and I read it, and I was like, oh. You say, why is that? Because I don't want to live my life like this. Are you with me? I want to live my life like this. I want to be in connection. I learned yesterday that I hate being at home when nobody else is there. It never happens. My wife has my kids up in Illinois right now. They went up to do a family get-together and all this, and it wasn't planned within my schedule. Betty already chewed me out, so save your speech, all right? It wasn't already there. I had already made obligations. Your yes has to be yes, and your no has to be no. So you can be all down on me, but I'm just trying to be scriptural, all right? And so I realized that I want to be there. My wife keeps sending me these photos of all these cute grins and all these good cuddles, and I sat there yesterday on the couch like this. Partly because I couldn't believe what happened to Tennessee, but let's move on. I just sat there like this. And I thought to myself, I miss it. The noise that I oftentimes wish I could turn off, I miss when it's not there. Are you with me? Like I'm not good alone. You know why? Because nobody was made to be that way. Matter of fact, didn't God say in Genesis, it's not good for a man to be alone? I'll make a helpmeet. I'll make somebody. Can I tell you this, church? If you're battling loneliness, if you're battling these things in your life, you need a community. You need to understand that we are called to need it and to be it. So number 2, write it down. You get to overcome. When you're in a community, you got family, it helps you overcome fatigue. They encourage you to keep going. You know, how many of you moms and dads go when you have no go left because you love your babies? Would you slip your hand up? Many of you. You're emotionally drained, mentally drained, physically drained, but you're going to go because you love your babies. You know what it helps you do? Boost up. It helps you it gives you an energy that you don't naturally have when you have people in your life that you care for. Number 2, in that it helps you overcome frustration. You know why it helps you overcome frustration? There's somebody there to give you advice. There's somebody there to say, hey, this is the way you should do. This is the way you should go. Matter of fact, in Proverbs chapter 28, verse number 26, it says, those who trust their own insight are foolish, but anyone who walks in what? Wisdom is safe. Understand this. Wisdom is not something you naturally produce. Knowledge is not something you naturally come by. It's something that's given to you. Wisdom is what is given to you by God, and knowledge is what's given to you by others. And so, hey, you're safe when you have advisors. Life is frustrating. Life is difficult. It is torture when you're trying to do it alone. And when you got people in your life, it helps you overcome frustration. Write this down, I love it. It helps you overcome failure. You know why? Somebody can help you recover. Anybody ever had the person give you money when maybe you misused yours or yours was taken or you ran short? How many of you have ever had that person help you recover? How many of you have ever gone through addiction and had the person help you get out? Would you slip your hand up? All right, there's many of you here. How many of you are going through something? And it doesn't have to be addiction. It could be in your life, a trial, death of a loved one, and all this. But God has put people in your life that are helping you get back on track. Anybody like that? Slip their hand up. I mean, have you realized that at some point in your life, you need the person you can get out the phone and call? So yesterday, I'm pressure washing. And my OCD kicks in, trying to strip all the paint off of it. I've never done that before. And so Nathan's been doing part of it, and I wanted to help him out. And he was working a 12-hour, and so I'm pressure washing, and then it just, I have to get it all off. I mean, I can't let, and even we're going to paint it back, and it says you just got to get the edges down and get it smooth. Well, to me, edges down means paint gone. But you know what happens when you have to make every bit of the paint go? Some of the wood goes. Yeah, didn't expect that. I'm sitting there like, I'm doing so good. I went in to watch the Bama game, came back out to finish, and when it was wet, it looked great. When it was dry, it was fuzzy. That's exactly right. That's the word that came to my mind. It was flaking everywhere. It is now Splinter City, all right? And I'm like, did I ruin my deck? So you know what I did? I picked up my phone and I text Wade. I actually said, did I ruin my deck? And so Wade starts sending me YouTube videos. You need this, and you're going to have to sand it. Well, painting sounded so easy when you don't know what you're doing. But once you get into it, it's a lot more difficult. I'm going to tell you this. I'm thankful I have help. Because now I can recover from the failure of pressure washing a deck very close on a zero whatever nozzle. It works too well. All right? Yeah, you're not supposed to use it. Have you ever learned this too, that sometimes you have failures because you got in a hurry? You wanted it to happen fast, and you wanted it to do it, so you tried to do it on your own, only to find that you really needed to be patient. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 3 things in closing. That if you're going to go into community, you're going to have ability to overcome loneliness. You're going to have the ability to overcome fatigue and failure. You're going to have the ability to overcome frustration. You'll be able to handle moments when you're in despair because you'll get hope in return. And so here's what I want you to write down. Here's the 3 reasons why it's better to have somebody or to be there for somebody. Ready? Number 1, it's safer to be in a group. There's strength in numbers. Have you learned that? I mean, it's like this. I'm going to use a visual real quick. Some of you are writing. Caleb, Ethan, y'all come up here. Y'all are strong-looking guys. Let's see. Jonathan, you come down. Is that all right? Y'all come down. Let's see. I'm looking. Anybody that's young and feels like they're good-looking, come on up on the stage. Let's just kind of put that out there. All you humble people, let's go. All right. Sam, where you at, man? Come on, let's go. All right. Advertisement. Let's get it going. All right, now watch this. Okay, y'all stand over there. Y'all have it. All right. Let's say that these are my people. Should be my people. I know this guy's loyal. I mean, very loyal, all right? So these are my people. And this is my network of which I'm supposed to walk in. They're the ones that are the outside in lookers, so they have a better view a lot of times of the things going on in my life. Have you ever learned the closer you are to it, the harder it is to see? The closer you are to the situation, the harder it is to understand, but somebody can walk in with an outside perspective and make everything make total sense. You can get somebody's advice or wisdom, you can go to the Word of God and you can find answers that you didn't even know you needed. And let's say that at this moment, like, I was under attack. Let's say Thomas is coming after me. So Thomas, come after me. Oh, wow, you took it literally. All right, yeah, there we go. Invaded my bubble. No, come on. I'm a lot easier to get to alone. Would you agree? Now, if I'm in my network, if I'm in my group, I got my small group, I got my people, and Thomas is coming for me, and let's not talk about Thomas as a person. Let's talk about Thomas as an attack, a trial, a hardship, a loss, a failure that I did not see coming. All right? And Thomas is coming after me, but I'm with my people. Come on, Thomas. He's going to have a harder time getting to me. Would you agree? It's safer in numbers. All right? Like, I didn't even tell her what to do. She's proven it's good to have a girl in the group, too. You know what I mean? A little bit feisty. I heard her. She got up here. She turned around and she goes, why am I the only girl up here? You know, because a lot of girls don't like to admit when listen, ladies, stop letting men or circumstances steal your confidence and security. All right, we use the word, if you're good looking, come up, and some of you would never admit that, but you are beautiful and wonderful and created in God's sight, and so every one of you should have been able to take the stage, men or women alike, all right? But I understand you're being humble or insecure, whatever you want to call it, but let's be real, let's be true, all right? It's hard. I'm not a woman, but I know it's a hard society to be a woman in. It really is, all right? We've got to make some acknowledgments there. You know why it's hard? Because men aren't men. Men are absent. That protection, that provision. I'm not saying all of you aren't men. I'm not saying that. Some of you are great men. Men that I look up to and men that I'm modeling my life after. You stay consistent. You stay true. But a lot of men don't know how to be men, and so women are exposed, used, or are neglected, slighted, looked down upon, and trying to take on things that it's not meant for them to do alone. If it wasn't good for man to be alone and woman was the solution, then we got to understand there would be no woman without the man, all right? And so understand we need each other equally. Are you understanding? And so in that, we get to these moments where we're saying, hey, if you're good looking, come on up, and you get insecure. I get it. Not all of you are thinking that way, but I will say this. It is good to have the balance in our lives of the beautiful way that this mind thinks compared to the stupid way that these minds think. Am I way? Guys, am I right? If my wife would have been there yesterday, I would have at least had sunblock on. I mean, I would have had somebody saying, you need to put a shirt on. Number one, that ain't pretty. And number two, you're going to get burnt. All right? And so understand, we've got to be in groups or we're easily attacked. Some of the safest place should be when you're around other believers. It should be okay to be falling apart and not have to hide it when you're around other believers. It should be okay to admit weakness and struggle when you're around other believers. It should be okay to say, hey, I've been sober all these years, but I slipped or I struggled. Now, I'm not saying I did, but there are you that have been sober or clean, and now your mind is under attack, and you're scared to say it because of how many people look up to you. I'm going to say this. The people that are honest will be looked up to the most, and at some point, we got to get back to the reality that nobody's perfect, but everybody needs somebody sometime. And we are safer when we're together. Hey, would you agree? If you don't agree, then you don't agree with God. Because He's the one that said it. A triple braided cord, not easily broken. Thank you. Y'all can have a seat. Number 2. Why we need each other and why we need to be there for others. You got it, sweetie? Those are narrow steps. Thank you. Is it's supportive. I mean, it's good to have support. I wrote down these 2 things. I said one of them already. You get the energy you don't normally have, but number 2, you get to go further than you could actually go. When somebody is with you, you can go far. Why do you think geese fly together? Safer, easier. They get more strength because they can fly off the draft that someone else is creating instead of having to expound all their energy to create. Write it down this way. If you and I would draft, in other words, coast, mount up on wings of eagles by waiting on God, if you and I would get caught in the draft of the Creator, we wouldn't have to feel like we needed to be so creative. If we would just trust that God could step out into the universe and create everything, then we can understand that in this trial, God can create the way out. That in this moment, God could create the solution. That in that despair, that frustration, all God has to do is speak, let there be, and it will be. And when we understand that, we don't have to take it all upon ourselves. And when we're together and we're working together, then we get stronger because, number 1, it's safe, but it's supportive to not have to do everything on your own. And to the single mom, you don't have to. You say, well, I don't have that man or that father figure. Look around this room. I guarantee you there's many that will stand in the gap until that man raises up or shows up for you. You do not have to do it alone. To those of you that are going through the loss of a loved one, there's many sitting in this room that have lost people tragically or expectedly, and they know how to walk through this battle with you. Matter of fact, God has lost His only begotten Son and knows exactly what it feels like to lose someone you love as a result of evil that exists in this world. And the Bible says He's the God of comfort that will comfort you in your day of trouble so that you could comfort others in their day of trouble with the same comfort you were given of God. You know, we've gone through some very hard times as a family, and one thing I am very thankful for is y'all have never left us alone. Y'all have flat out been annoying sometimes. And I'm thankful for that. You say, well, that's me. No, listen, there's times when I want to isolate. So do you. And I will say this. I am thankful for those of you that refuse to let it happen. And pray that I will be that for you when you're trying to do the same. There's support in knowing that even in the valley of the shadow of death, goodness and mercy are still walking with you. It's never left you. That God's provision is still there. And we need each other because look around this room. I don't have much material money, right? Resource. I'm blessed materially. I don't ever want to act like I don't have anything. Please don't ever act like you don't either. We're among the richest in the world. But I might not have the thousands of dollars necessary to pay for your needs, but I do have things that I can use. I have extra food. I have extra seats at my table. I have places that you can sleep, clothes that you can wear. And I have it in 2 sizes because my weight fluctuates way too much. So I can help the almost big and the already there. The reality is this: I need to be more aware of the needs of others because every now and then we all need support. We all need somebody to run in. We all need the person that helps us stay focused. And church, don't let the enemy lie to you and let you be convinced that you can do this as a lone ranger because you can't. God never created a lone ranger. Last thing, it helps me grow. We'll close with this. Please write these 3 things down. When I am in a group, it is easy to see what I am getting wrong in my life when others that are living right are close to me. You ever looked at the couple that's been married so long and still madly in love and wish? Have you ever had that thought? Now, I know you can't admit that, all right? Especially if that person that you're wishing for is sitting right beside you. You ever said, well, I wish we were having fun like they are? You know what's actually happening in your life is God is saying, you should be having fun like they are. And this is what's keeping you from having fun like they are. You can see that clearly when you're around people that are doing it right. I mean, when you're the drug addict, it's hard to use when you're around the people that refuse to use drugs. As a delivered alcoholic, it's hard to drink around the people that have chosen to be sober. Are you with me? That's why I don't travel alone. You've heard me say it before. It's when I'm alone, I'm the most tempted. Now, you know what I do now when I'm alone, like at home? I get busy. I keep my mind occupied and I do those things, but I am rarely alone. And sometimes I'm like, I wish I was. But it's the moments that I'm alone, and I get in my head that my biggest temptations come. Anybody else say me too? Oh, yeah. All right, how many of you are at your worst by yourself? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. You think you're worst when you are by yourself. And so when I'm on the other side of the world, I better have somebody there. I better have somebody with me. Because that's when it's going to be easy to get away with it in the eyes of others. Because no one will know. But I have learned this. Sin is not easy to get away from, even when nobody else knows about it. Because the guilt and the shame are unbearable once you've committed the act. Anybody say yes? But when I'm with other people, it's hard to say, give me a beer. When I'm in town, it's hard to say, give me a drink at a restaurant. Why? Because at any moment, somebody that knows me that I may not even know or somebody that I know may walk through the door. And you say, well, you should be stronger than that. Don't you dare think that you're different just because the things you are weak to are different than the things I'm weak through. The reality is this. Matter of fact, we'll get to this verse later. Don't think you know it all. That's in this chapter. So for all of you know-it-alls, I'll get you. I'm coming back, all right? But understand this, and please don't forget it. The wolf attacks the isolated sheep. The coyote attacks the isolated cattle. The lion circles and attacks the independent. The enemy that we have in our life is no different. And God says, hey, when you're around people, it's easier to see what's wrong in your life. You saying, well, we're not supposed to compare. We're not talking about comparison. We're talking about revelation, when God gives an example of what you should be and you realize, I need to make some changes. Easier to see in a group. Number 2, we learn how to go at different paces. I mean, some of us get stuck in ruts, right? Same routines all the time. Some of you in here are very slow decision makers. All right? You overthink it. And once you know you're supposed to do it, you delay it anyway because you got to think about it some more. And you know what you're doing? Driving the decision maker crazy. The person that is always able. You know, hey, you know what we need? A balance of both. I'm impulsive. My wife is not. I need her. I pass by and see the word sell on anything electronic, anything. And I immediately take a step back and look. I don't know why. I don't even have to have a need for it. My wife will go to the bathroom in the back of the Walmart. Worst place to go to the bathroom when you're married to a tech junkie, because it's in the tech department. She'll come out and I'm standing there staring at this curved TV thinking, I wonder why that's curved. And while she's been in the bathroom, I've been walking at every possible angle to look at that TV. Oh, I can see it from here. I wonder if I can see it from here. Yeah, exactly. Like, and even that, James, I don't even have to put it on the wall. I can put it in a built-in. Yeah. We do not need to go to Walmart together. All right, that would be bad. Because I would be the guy saying, you could, James. I'm going to live vicariously through you because I don't want the argument. You can have it, and I'll do the counseling for you and Nikki. You should buy it. You'll be my guinea pig. Let's go to Walmart, all right? You know, but the reality is I'll stand there without a need, and I'll start thinking about the want. My wife will walk out, and I'll be like, do you think we need a new TV? And she's like, no. Like, why would you think you need a new TV? Well, that one's 4K. You know, like, you get to see the leaves on the tree. Can you not see the display? It's awesome. To which she'll reply, they don't even put things in 4K on cable. It's like when they came out with high-definition TVs still in the tubes. For those of you young, a tube is a giant TV that's big and huge. And they had these high-definition ports that did not matter because there was not high-definition DVDs, and cable was 5 years away from releasing high-definition tape. But you have a high-definition TV. It's not as cool now because most of the high-definition TVs had a dual DVD player and tape player, VHS, which now is obsolete. And you sit there and you look at it and you're like, I got a high-def TV. Well, you can't play high-def, so what good's the high-def? You know, I'm not smart enough to think about that on my own. I need somebody else, and so they show me when I'm wrong. All right, can I tell you this? That is why you need a church. That is why we are a voting church. For all of you that believe that churches should just make decisions and not include others, I do not believe that for a second, because we can be stupid independently. And it is amazing to me how God has met every major decision of this church through a unified 100% vote every single time. And every time that has happened, God has poured out success through the decision. And so in those statements and in those moments, I step back and realize that even though the whole world of churches modern day say, don't tell everything to the church, I say, I want you to know everything about me. Why? Because I want you to be there and help me grow when I'm going the wrong way. I need somebody that'll stand in a meeting and vote no because they're going to be obedient to God. And by doing that, they help me grow. It's supportive, but it helps me go the right direction and at the right pace. I tell people all the time, and I promise you I'm almost done. When I go to Walmart with my mother-in-law, I need pre-game stretches. Like, let's go to the store. I better stretch the hammies, the thighs. My mother-in-law is wonderful, but she has one speed in Walmart. It is fast and anti-systematic. It's not start in the back of the store and work your way front. It's go where your mind is, as fast as you can get there. It's okay when the cart or buggy is empty. It is not cool when you've got 2 things of bottled water, a couple cases of Coke, meats and milk and all the heaviness, and all of a sudden it's like darting everywhere. I'm telling you, if I'm going to go with her, I have to get ready. Why? Because she goes at a different pace than me. But you know what I like about shopping with her? I don't have time for my impulses. You know what I mean? I don't have time to stop and look at it and say, that would look good on James's wall. I don't. Because it's keep up. Hey, some of us need to go a little faster in some areas. Some of us need to go a little slower. And you know how you know that? Is when you're around other people. You've got people that'll help you learn different paces. Last thing, and we'll go. We learn that God hates loneliness. Hates it. I said this verse earlier. Let's look at it real quick. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it's not good for men to be alone. So I will make a helper who's just right for you. You know what? God said that twice. The first time he made every animal in existence. For those of you that are not animal lovers, God introduced their love first before he introduced Eve's. Now, for those of you that love your animals more than you love your spouses, after God created those animals, he said, these will not satisfy. Are you with me? When we first got married, I was jealous of our dog. Hey, I've told you before, I used to tell Jordan all the time, you love the dog more than me. I was a terrible husband at the beginning, and she wasn't the best wife at the beginning either. We will both stand and admit that. All right? Stu said, oh dear. All right? Like, she would admit that. We were not good. Understand this, though. She would make the statement, well, the dog's nicer to me than you are. And I would say, if you would rub my belly like that, I'd be nicer too. You know, I mean, go back and forth, jealous of the dog. Listen, don't supplement what God intended for you to have through human contact with an animal, although we should still love them. Are you with me? Understand this, though. God created 2 families that he intended you to live in. Your physical family. But I'm going to tell you something about your physical family. They grow apart. Even close families live in different houses at some point. I watched a show yesterday. I think it was a commercial. It wasn't even a show. Where it's this dad and this daughter. And it gets to the end and she keeps asking, are you ready? At first they're asking her, are you ready? And she jumps into the pool. She's little bitty. Then she's older swimming in the pool. And he goes, okay, let's do another lap. Are you ready? And it's him asking her, are you ready? Are you ready? And then in the end, she walks up in this white dress to him. He's old, gray hair. She puts her hand on his shoulder and says, are you ready? And I lost it. I lost it. It's a commercial, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm going to buy their insurance. You know, it's like, I need their... they got me. I lost it. Because now, I hadn't even thought of it to the moment. With Lincoln, I know he's going to walk down the aisle, but there is something different. Because, you know, as a man, you look at him and you see a man. When it comes to your daughter, you see your world. And now Lincoln's my world. And when I saw that, all of a sudden, I'm like, Canaan is going to walk down an aisle one day, and I'm going to have to be the one walking her. And the whole time down that aisle, I'm going to be thinking about murder. I'm just going to tell you what's on my mind. He's crying because he loves her so much. No, I'm crying because it's not right with God to kill that guy when I get up to the front. It's my baby, you know? That's my little girl. But one day, as much as I love Lincoln, and as much as I love that little girl, they're going to move out. And don't think that it's not in the back of my mind that I took Deb and Vic Breeze's little girl 8 hours away. I moved their daughter here, which brought their son here, and now they live 8 hours away from the 2 that they love more than anything. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Your physical family naturally grows apart. You don't get to have all these moments. That's why, hey, listen to me. Make the moments count while you got them. One day you will look at your spouse, if you do it right, in a coffin and wonder where life went. You'll have to say goodbye to somebody that you care about deeply. Your physical family God gave you, but that family will grow apart and it will die. So he gave you a spiritual family. He gave you the family of God, the body of believers. And I'm going to tell you this, it's important that you make sure your physical family is a part of your spiritual family too, because your physical family will die, but your spiritual family will last forever. He gave the perfection back that the enemy stole in the garden. Adam and Eve were supposed to be forever, and he made them mortal. So God stepped in and created a spiritual family that is immortal, and you and I can be a part of it. And today, God has declared war on loneliness. God has declared war on isolation. And if you are living in it today, then God wants you to hear you need to be a part of his family. You need to come in. And church, listen to me. We need to be a family that it's good to get together at the family reunions with. Don't be the person that you can't stand that shows up to Thanksgiving. Are you with me? Don't be, Stu, you're going to get in trouble, man. I'm going to go back here. Hopefully Cameron didn't pick you. I'm just kidding. Don't be the person that somebody comes to church or doesn't come to church because of. You say, what do you mean? They shouldn't come for you, and they shouldn't leave because of you. But you should be there when they get there, and you should pursue them when they leave. I asked our Celebrate Recovery team this, and I know I'm saying it on camera. We had a conversation, the intimate parts of it are nobody's business. But a question that's been looming in my mind are we a recovery church, or do we just facilitate recovery? Do we see success? And the answer is yes, we do have them. But are we in pursuit of the ones that we don't see anymore? The ones that have slipped back off what they call the wagon? Are we knocking down their doors? Are we letting them know that we're not going to let them retreat without a fight? That we're not going to let them go? Are we surrendering the families? Are we just giving in because we're so tired of hearing all the arguments and just saying, yeah, you should get a divorce? Or are we saying, absolutely not, let's do something different? Absolutely not, let's war, let's fight, let's go. Let's be what God wants us to be. Hey, I'm just saying, church, we need to be the people that are there when they get here and are running after them when they leave. Thank God. I just would be okay with being the well of which God sends to you to protect you when you're running from him. I don't need to be the Jonah, the ship, or anything else. I would just love to be the one that's so nurturing you until you get back to where God intended you to be. Will you please be that for me too? Will you please rise to the occasion and realize we desperately need each other? So let's go back to verse 13 and we'll close right here. When God's people are in need, be ready. Be ready to do what it takes. Always be eager, excited about fellowship, hospitality. The number one thing I struggle with in a church that's growing like this has been is how do I stay connected to the individual? Some of you have been coming for a month or two now and I still don't know your names, and I apologize. I want to be better at that, because you deserve better. How do we get to know your quirky side, your weird side? How do we get to know what makes you tick? Because I want to get better at that. And you know what? The answer is this. It can't just be me. It can't just be a greeter. It has to be a whole church with a family mentality saying, we're going to make sure that everybody belongs and feels welcome. Not in our church. Who cares about this? This will all go away one day. But in their spiritual family, to where they know that God has not forgotten them and God sees them right where they are. And for some of you that are visiting from out of state today, from Mattoon, they're from Family Worship Center, they're leaving right after, they literally drove down from the Ark to go to church this morning to go back to Kentucky. I was like, are y'all staying? No, we just made a loop. I was like, that's a pretty long loop. You know, we get this one service with this family. and they should be impacted by the love that we're shown. You know why? So that when they go back to our extended family, our sister church, they can send that love. Paul wrote like this so many times. Your support for me while I was gone carried me. It meant the world to me. Let's be the connected family that God intends us to be. So before you leave today, get to know somebody. Let's stand, grab somebody's hand. Now, well, I guess we did it again. I went a little bit longer today than I have been since Canaan was born, but somehow you're still out by 10:30. It's like some miracle since she was born that we get out on time. All right? Our parking team has loved us the past few weeks. I say that to say this. I thought that you weren't going to have time to get to know each other, but I was wrong. You do. Make sure that as you're getting your kids, you meet another family with kids. Yeah, hey, also known as a babysitter, right? Make sure that if you are 18 to 35, come hang out and play games, do whatever. In a few weeks, I think in October, when it gets a little bit cooler, football starts dying down for the high school, come to the movie night. Sit out on the lawn. Hey, it's okay to talk through our movies. We're not going to yell. If your phone rings, you got a different story. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, get involved. You say, well, I want to get to know people. You'll never do it from your living room. I'll tell you that right now. You'll never do it being first out the door. Now, listen, I'm not saying you got to stay here and wait on somebody else to leave. You can be first out the door simply means first in your car off the parking lot. You can get out the door. Matter of fact, we need you out the door. We got another service in 30 minutes. But the reality is you don't have to think, well, nobody notices me. You can be noticed, and you know who people notice? The ones that notice them. And when you see somebody else, I promise you, they'll see you. When you pour into somebody else, they'll pour into you. Let's be eager and ready to help. Let's practice some hospitality. Wherever you go this week, make someone feel important. Pour in. Let's pray. God, we love you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for who you are and what you do in our lives. Thank you